Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for tuning in. We have a lot to talk about. Hit subscribe to this channel right now, to my super chat. If you want to support this live stream, ladies and gentlemen, your support is greatly appreciated. If you want to talk about the midterms, a stock market crash that we're seeing in slow motion, we are heading into a recession. We'll talk about that. That's going to obviously help Republicans take the House and very likely, almost certainly, the Senate. We'll talk about that. And when that takes place, you have to understand that a lot of this, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of this, when it comes to John Durham, is a waiting game. The special counsel John Durham, just like the Mueller probe, is a special counsel that needs political momentum. It needs political momentum. There's no media coverage, very little media coverage of John Durham, and there's very little political momentum or support that he has. Okay, you have Trump Republicans that support Durham and the special counsel. And again, it is a special counsel, just like Robert Mueller. There are Trump Republicans in Congress, and President Trump supports the Durham probe special counsel, but it does not have the support that it needs yet. It will. Durham doesn't have the support that he needs. He will eventually have that support. When you have a Congress run by Republicans that want nothing more than to just investigate Biden, just the way Democrats investigated Trump. So they want a lot more than that. They want to hopefully lift up the economy or pick it up from the catastrophe that we're about to experience. But you have to understand something. Hit subscribe to this channel right now, to my super chat. Thank you. Eric and Luke, two amazing moderators. Thank you so very much. The Senate and the House, if you look at what Democrats have done, they didn't pass Medicare for all. They didn't pass any Green New Deal legislation. They didn't end the filibuster. They couldn't even pass Build Back Better. They didn't pack the courts. They didn't do anything that they said they were going to do. They ran on this message, this lofty message of being this transformative, progressive, left-leaning governing body, both in the House and in the Senate. Kamala Harris was talking about Medicare for all not long ago. In the primaries, you had a lot of talk about all of these. They didn't even get the student loan debt addressed by Democrats. They got nothing. The progressives in Congress got nothing. Okay? Democrats have deceived their voters yet again. And of course, they railroaded Bernie Sanders 5 years ago in 2016, 6 years ago, and also 2 years ago. Okay? They have no intention of doing anything they promise. Zero intention. All they've done is investigate Trump's tax returns. The Mueller probe investigated this absurd nonsense, fabricated nonsense that Trump worked with Russia, which never happened. Then we just saw Michael Avenatti. He's now convicted of stealing $300,000 from Stormy. And so they didn't do anything. All they did was preach and pontificate and condemn and judge, and stood back, did nothing, when there was $1 to $2 billion in property damage, 25 lives lost, but there are January panels, so they're investigating that also. All they've really done is investigate. Oh, and also sell stock immediately after, and that's Republicans also did this. Kelly Loeffler and Richard Burr, there's another Republican too, sell stock right after classified briefings before March of 2020, before the market tanked. How are you going to sell stock before? I mean, does it make sense? In the chat, you sell, this is really quickly, I wasn't even going to talk about this, but now we have to, okay? Then they say, well, why did we lose? Why did Republicans lose? It's like, well, it's not Trump's fault. Um, it's not Trump's fault. It's okay. Hold on one second. Okay, hold on one second. Kelly Loeffler stock sale. Richard Burr Feinstein classified. Okay, so they had classified briefings. They had classified briefings really quickly. So this is the type of thing that this is the reason why. This is the reason why. This is the exact reason why Republicans lost. Okay? It was a classified, okay. 4 senators sold stock after briefings. Okay? This is exactly why Republicans lost. You had a couple of Republicans who were somewhat never-Trumpers and Democrats selling stock. Burr's the chairman. This man Burr went after Trump, and he sold stock right after a classified briefing before the initial crash 2 years ago, which was self-induced. Burr is the chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, which receives frequent briefings and has experience responding to Kelly Loeffler, who was appointed to her seat in December, and now she was resigning. Okay, so 4 U.S. senators sold stock after sensitive briefings in January, sparking concerns that they put safeguarding their private finances before the duty to protect public health. So they were told that almost certainly the economy, society, everything was going to come crashing down. Okay? They sold stock. Could you imagine this? And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, by the way, they were not, there were no repercussions. Nina, thank you. Thanks, everybody. There were no, David, hello. There were no repercussions. So I'm going to get to really quickly. So before we get to the, before we get to the, I mean, this is really, it's like, this is criminal behavior. It's criminal behavior. And it was never Trump Republicans, and Democrats. It's criminal behavior. You can't do this. I mean, it's obviously criminal, but this is the establishment that finds Trump to be a menace and mashed potato brains our President Biden to be the wonderful person. So look, four senators sold stock shortly after a January briefing in the Senate, unloading shares that plummeted in value a month later. I mean, if that's not insider trading, I don't know what is. Please tell, if that's not insider trading, I don't know what is. That's the definition. That's the definition. Hello. That's the definition of insider trading. Okay? And I'm just going to have to talk about this and focus on this article for at least 2 hours. Loeffler and husband, who is the chairman of the New York Stock Exchange, sold at least $355,000. $355,000. Okay? Worth of stocks from January 24th to the 31st. $355,000. Then the senator and husband also sold $890,000 in stocks from February 5th to 14th. I mean, you're selling well over $1,100,000 in stocks. Okay? And then they say, well, Trump cost us, the Senate. It's like, no, you cost the Senate. Everybody knows you engaged in shady and corrupt activity. Okay? But Richard Burr, Kelly Loeffler was somewhat maybe never Trump, but Richard Burr was definitely never Trump Republican. Okay, Burr was, hold on, let's see. Richard Burr sold $628,000. $628,000. And $1.72 million in stocks right before Monique Smith. Hello, H.A. Shock, not really about insider trading. Monique, thank you. Thank you. Ben D. Monique. Monique, 1.72 million. Thank you so very much, Monique. To my super chat, thank you. Monique, thank you. $1.72 million. Thank you, Monique. I hope all is well. Thank you so very much. To my super chat, thank you. Monique, thank you so much. Monique Smith, thank you. Burr sold between, so he sold about $1 million. How does it say between 628 and how do you not know how much he sold in stock while receiving classified briefings? $1.72 million the man sold. Okay, well, he says between. I'd say $1 million. Senator Burr filed financial disclosure forms for personal transactions made several weeks before the crash. Okay? Okay? As the situation continues to evolve daily, he has been deeply concerned by the steep toll you know what is taking. It's not you know what, it's the reaction to you know what. I love that. The euphemisms there. He had a private luncheon, Richard Burr. This is like the man who confirmed that Russia wanted Trump. Russia wanted Trump. A February 27th luncheon in Washington, D.C. Okay? So, this man they all engaged in insider trading. Dianne Feinstein, she sold $500,000 in stocks and at least $1 million in another stock. Okay? They're selling more money than most Americans can save up in a lifetime. And they're doing it right in front of everyone's face. Now, these are never Trump Republicans also. When people say, oh, Trump, it's like, well, no, Trump voters generally, or I should say a good percentage of Trump supporters don't really care about a political party. So I don't really care. I'm voting for President Trump, and I'm voting for Trump Republicans. But at the same time, if Trump Republicans act in the same way as never Trump Republicans eventually, then I won't vote for that side. Well, it'll be very difficult for me to vote Democrat, but if it's Tulsi Gabbard versus Marco Rubio, I would vote for Tulsi Gabbard. I want a foreign policy that is the antithesis of Lincoln Project foreign policy. That's the most important thing for me. It's always been the most important thing. Foreign policy is the most important thing for me. Because not only does it affect people in the United States, but outside of the country, and it also affects our economy and it affects everything in life. And we're seeing right now, mashed potato brains in his foreign policy is horrendous. But really quickly, so before we get to the polls, just look, and it's like, the picture of that banana there. Anyway, so, so here, how Burr's stock scandal shocked the Senate. This man sold stock, and he was one of the top people, along with Paul Ryan and Robert Mueller. This man was one of the top people to go after Trump. He was Senate Intelligence Committee chairman. He confirmed the intelligence. He didn't stand up for President Trump. He didn't stand up for a Republican president the way Democrats would. And he sold stocks right before the crash from insider trading, almost certainly. Okay? That being said, 270 to win has Republicans in 2022 edging out Democrats. Okay? And you have you have elections like in Alabama, for example, that should be definitely a Republican win. So let's just read this really quickly. Republicans are now clear favorite to win the House and Senate in 2022. So let's just see here. Jones Mike 9844, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Jones Mike 9844. Greatly appreciated. Herschel Ballard. Herschel, thank you so much, Herschel. Every single live stream, so kind of you. Thank you. Herschel Ballard, thank you so much. Greatly, greatly, greatly appreciated. So, predicted and other odds makers are betting on a Republican Senate and a Republican House, which, like I said, will help the Durham probe. Ben D! When do you think is a good time to dump a chunk of money into the market? Ben, first, thank you so much. Thank you so very much always for your support and your kind words and everything. Ben, I wouldn't, if you're asking what I would do personally, I don't own any stocks and I haven't been in the market in a long time. And I would, for me, not touch the stock market for about at least a year and a half, at least. That's for me. If anybody's about to retire, they have no business being in the stock market. So Ben D, for people who are about to retire, I will say, if I was about to retire, I would sell all my mutual funds and all my stocks and just keep it all in cash. For me, if I was about to retire. If I wasn't about to retire and I had stocks, I would, for me, I'm not saying telling anybody, I would actually, you're not supposed to time the market, you really aren't, but I would sell everything and just keep it in cash. And I would see how the next year and a half is going, because it's not going to be good. But if I had money, if I had cash, I would wait for the next year and a half, probably year and a half. Ben D, this is going to be a catastrophic. We're heading into a recession with interest rates increasing 3 to 4 times this year. It's going to be the market's going to collapse either from interest rates or from inflation. They want to get to like 2.25%, and you know what? I would, at your age, if I was 41, I'm not that far away from 41. If it's me and I'm 41 years old, for me, I'm not telling anybody what to do. There's no way in a million years I wouldn't buy Bitcoin. I wouldn't buy any stocks. I wouldn't get into the stock market at all. At all. I just think, my God. I mean, we don't need a classified briefing like Dianne Feinstein and Richard Burr and Kelly Loeffler. We don't need a classified briefing. You have, I mean, Ben, you have inflation, and they're going to raise interest rates, but that's not going to stop inflation. You know, oil. So Ben, um, okay, so oil prices. Okay, it's already been everybody here, and this is all part of the midterms and the Durham probe. Don't think that the economy and when I talk about stocks is different. That doesn't have anything to do with the Durham probe. It has a lot to do with it. Ben, everybody here, we have $100 a barrel oil. It's 90 plus now. It's going to reach $100. Okay, the Olympic Games are like, China is very likely going to invade Taiwan or get close to it after the Olympic Games. Then you have Russia and Ukraine. Then you have another geopolitical crisis that we don't know of. The uncertainty is unbelievable. You have $100 per barrel. Now it's going to go over $100 per barrel. It was $140 or so in '08. How is inflation? Ben, everybody here, can somebody answer me in the chat? How is inflation going to decrease when oil is going to increase in price? How does inflation decrease when energy costs are skyrocketing? How does that work? If you have over $100 per barrel oil, and part of the reason that we've had, the market rebound since '08, that the market's done so well is because energy costs were low. Well, what happens when you have over $100 per barrel oil? Okay, so we can just go here. Um, it topped $90 a barrel 3 days ago. Okay, $90 a barrel for the first time since 240 from 2014. Okay, two $90 a barrel, and let me just show you something really quickly. Okay, fertilizer is up 200%. Well, if human waste, if that's maybe San Francisco can maybe maybe they could use it use their wonderful democratic policies to their advantage. The world is so desperate. The world is so desperate for this is unbelievable. This is the epitome of Democratic Party policies. We're also desperate for manure. Even human waste is a hot commodity. So, my God, don't touch the market. Don't touch manure either. But soaring energy prices make fertilizer inputs more expensive. Farmers are scrambling for organic manure. Okay? Food prices are going to go through the roof. The market for manure for pigs, horses, cattle, and even humans from pig has never been so hot. Okay? This is a bad problem globally. Now, you know, You might say, well, whatever, man, this is so boring, and people might, look, it's boring. But here, fertilizer index hovering at all-time high. Who looks at the fertilizer index? Trying to tell people. They don't listen. I've been begging people. Been begging people to listen to me. I said, look at the fertilizer index. This thing is going, the bubble is popping. And Bandini is going to just come popping out and just get all over everybody. Well, if you're in the market. But the green market's North American fertilizer price index is hovering at an all-time high of 1,072.87 per short ton. The fertilizer index is up at an all-time high. I'm trying to tell you, this is what Democrats do. Even crap is overpriced. Do you understand? Even poop is at all-time highs. It's not getting any better. It's only going to get worse, unfortunately. I'm trying to tell people, save your money. Save your money. Save your money. I mean, as I beg for super chat, but Ben D, thank you. I mean, if you want to give super chat, fine. I'm just saying. But other than this channel, every month, save your money. It wouldn't hurt to have cash also. Not saying that ATMs aren't going to work, but it wouldn't hurt to have some cash. Don't tell the neighborhood, hey, everybody, I have a whole lot of cash. Don't do that. But canned goods. Look, I'm not trying to say that the sky is going to fall, but it's not bad to go ahead. It's not bad to go ahead and be prepared for, just be prepared. You want to go ahead this year. This is why, like, Republicans could have perhaps the best midterm, one of the best they've ever had, if not the best. Because we're heading towards not only a recession. Once the market gets the 2,000 to 3,000 point drop, I think another 1,000. There's been 1,000 point drop in the past 6 months or so. But once the market gets to, and this is all, look, you have to look at this in the following manner. When the fertilizer price index is at an all-time high, okay? Check this out. The demand for you know what is playing out globally. In Iowa, manure is selling for $40 to $70 per ton, up from $10 a year ago. That is 700% increase. Morgan Weaver, thank you. 7 times the amount for manure. Morgan Weaver, thank you. I mean, this is a global problem that was caused by the liberal intelligentsia. It happened under Trump, yes, but Democrats and media ran the show in the last year of office. JG, hello. The demand for manure is at an all-time high. You cannot grow food crops. You can't, feed livestock and have, food for them. I mean, this is a huge, and this is linked to the Durham probe. You might say, well, how is it linked to the Durham probe? Well, it is. It is linked to the Durham probe because all of these economic problems are going to lead to an electoral catastrophe for Dems. The green market's North American fertilizer price index is at an all-time high. And I mean, it's not just look, it's a lot of things. Look, um, there's a huge a global food crisis could be approaching. Okay, we have a global skyrocketing prices. A global food crisis could be approaching. This is something like when you have the top economies, when you have the top economies in the world ending their economies because they were told to do so by the morally superior, nothing good comes of it. Let's look at supply chain. Okay, supply chain crisis, increasing shipping rates. These aren't bottlenecks, and inflation isn't temporary. These are problems that took place because of policies. And so you have a supply chain backlog, taking shipments days or even weeks longer to get to their destination. Still, we've been talking about this for like 6 months now. It's not getting better, it's getting worse. It's getting worse. So, I mean, all of this is getting worse. Everything is getting worse. It's not getting any better. And you can have the market look, the stock market is counterintuitive. Um, the stock market's counterintuitive. So you're seeing you're seeing everything is double in price. Oil is over. So you tell me, ladies and gentlemen, and this is all like this is this relates directly to Republicans taking the House, but not just taking the House and Senate by wide margins. People are not going to vote to suffer more. And no matter what, let's just say if everything is kosher, we'll just keep it that way. They're not going to vote to suffer more. Republicans may not just win the House, but also Senate and midterms. Oil over $100 per barrel. It's going well over $100 per barrel. Fertilizer over 200% increase in cost. Natural gas, um, coal, everything, commodities are at all-time highs. It's a super cycle, a commodity super cycle. Okay, so here we're experiencing um, Goldman Sachs says we're entering a commodity super cycle. Everything is more expensive. Okay, everything is going to be more expensive. So how on earth is inflation going to um how are you going to get a foothold on inflation? Does that make any sense to anybody here in the chat? Does that make any sense? Everything is more expensive, from oil to fertilizer to commodities to gasoline, food prices, but because they're going to raise interest rates, then suddenly inflation will be tamed. Does that make sense? Hmm. If you have commodities entering a super cycle, 10-year high commodity supercycle. You say 10-year high, you're talking about shortly after the '08 crash. Copper is the new oil. Okay, let's see. Copper is the new oil, and they're obsessed. Oh, lithium going. Look at what's happening in lithium because of the car batteries, and then you have indigenous people suffering from cobalt, lithium, nickel, copper in the Congo and other places in the world. But don't tell AOC that. As long as she puts the words indigenous people, she's fine. As long as they mention indigenous people, they feel very good about themselves. Meanwhile, this is the same thing that happened with diamonds is happening with lithium and nickel and cobalt because of this obsession with climate change, which is an important issue. But if you don't have the technology to evolve immediately, then you don't like they want every liberal ideal in this basket of like, you know, what would it like it's the this bucket list. They want they want to address every single thing on their bucket list immediately because they know time is running out. They know the midterms aren't going to be good. They know time is running out. And it's just a matter of time before Trump Republicans take over and investigate them into oblivion, which will hurt them even more. I mean, this is not a good time for the Democratic Party. Not a good time for Twitter, by the way. Earnings come out in a couple of days, probably going to tank. If Facebook had bad earnings or an earnings miss or lost 200 billion, I don't think Twitter is going to do very well. But again, I mean, who knows? The market is counterintuitive. What we do know is it doesn't take a rocket scientist. It doesn't take, a brilliant economist to realize that what the writing is on the wall. The writing on the wall is that we're going to experience a catastrophic financial repercussions. We can already see it. The smartest people in the room, the most revered and respected experts and authorities told us to end economic activity 2 years ago. Okay? Lithium is skyrocketing. Cobalt. I mean, these are great charts right here. And by the way, this is with what? 5 or 6 or 7 or 8% of Americans driving electric cars. It's not like it's not a sizable amount yet. Imagine when it becomes a sizable amount. Also, mining these metals is very, very harmful to both the environment and to human beings. Okay, I wrote about that in the Federalist a couple years back. So Ben, I would stay far away from the stock market and save your money in cash. A savings account with cash, even with the inflation, because there's deflation also. Deflation in the form of, unfortunately, businesses going out of corporate businesses going out of business or sales and all that stuff. I mean, just here. I mean, you could look. This is interesting. The lithium, just for these car batteries, lithium price. Lithium prices soar, turbocharged by electric vehicle demand and scant supply. This is a horrible thing. This is look. What the morally superior liberal Democrats do is the following. They take an important cause. They take a noble idea, okay, or a lofty ideal. And they say, well, we have to address climate change. And they do so in the most apoplectic manner immediately after they ended economic activity. And immediately after their policies of ending economic activity to keep you safe, skyrocketed demand for energy, oil, food, everything. Now there's when you have fertilizer, lithium, oil, food, everything is skyrocketing demand. I don't understand. I don't see how, even if they do raise interest rates, which they will, which will tank the market, inflation is not going to stop going up. Why would inflation suddenly start going down? Makes no sense. Wages are going up, that's true, but the wage growth is being hit by the inflation. So people aren't really making more money because things are costing more. But here, this is interesting. Lithium prices are rising at their fastest pace in years, setting off a race to secure supplies and fueling worries about long-term shortages of a vital ingredient in the rechargeable batteries. There's going to be a lithium shortage, and this is during the time. This is during the time when AOC and Biden and Democrats are like, yeah, we have to go ahead and evolve quickly from fossil fuels. This is just one. You're probably going to have shortages of cobalt also. Ebenezer Adams! To heck with the chicken in every pot. American people cannot even bear the market price. Yeah, Ebenezer Adams. Ebenezer Adams, well said. Ebenezer Adams. It's true. It's true. JG, let's look that up. Wow. Ford to suspend or cut output at 8 of its factories due to chip shortage. Then there's a chip shortage. I didn't even get to the chip shortage. Ebenezer Adams, very well said. Well said. Ford to cut output at 8 of its factories due to chip shortage. Then there's a shortage in microchips. Ford plans to suspend or cut eight of its factories in the U.S., Mexico, and Canada throughout next week because of chip supply constraints. The changes come a day after the Detroit automaker warned a chip shortage would lead to a decline to vehicle volume in the current quarter. So, I mean, tell me where the good news is. Tell me where the good news is. Now, let's talk about another price, cobalt. So, look at this. This is interesting. I mean, this is just one. This is just one. Electric vehicles drive up nickel, cobalt, and lithium prices. AOC never talked about this. She doesn't care. Ebenezer Adams, thank you again. Ebenezer Adams, thank you so much. To my super chat, thank you. Electric vehicles drive up nickel, cobalt and lithium prices. Fertilizer up 200%. Oil over $100 a barrel eventually, very soon. Natural gas, coal at all-time highs. Food prices, because of fertilizer costs, skyrocketing at all-time highs. Supply chain breakdowns. Key labor shortages. And now you have nickel, cobalt, and lithium prices skyrocketing. This relates directly to the Durham probe special counsel. It relates directly to Republicans taking over the House and Senate. It relates directly to how horrible Biden's policies are and how horrible the Democratic Party's policies are. They pushed gleefully, and they're not focused on this. They're focused on like cultural issues or trying to take down certain people or trying to forgive some people but not other people. And they're not focused on this. They're not focused on this. Okay? They're not focused on and by the way, the poverty rate is going to go up. The poverty rate's going to go up when all of this when all of this when the economy um when the economy really takes a turn for the worse. The one thing that Democrats pride themselves on, which is really hilarious and pathetic because they're not good at this at all, is keeping people out of poverty or the working class or the working poor or poor people. And it's like, it's worse. It's going to be worse. It's going to be worse. Poverty rate's going to increase. And look at what they're focused on. Look at what they're focused on. They're focused on, they're not focused on anything other than a bucket list of liberal policies they want to implement in the last, 7-8 months. So it's February. So March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October. 8 months from now, you'll have the November elections. And nothing in the next 8 months, you're probably going to have not only 2,000 to 3,000. I mean, you will have the 2,000 to 3,000 point drops in the market. The market will tank, but also we're going to be heading into a recession. And I mean, we don't know. Look, we don't even know. If you look right here, we don't know what's going to happen with Russia and Ukraine. Okay, we don't know what there could be here. What did I tell you, by the way? What did I tell you, by the way? Remember we were talking about? Remember? Do you remember? Don't want to manage cookies. What did I tell you? U.S. believes Russia plans nuclear exercise to warn West over Ukraine. What did I tell you? What did we talk about yesterday with the mushroom cloud and Biden and mashed potato brains? Did I not tell you that he's going to get us into a nuclear confrontation? Did I not say this? Unfortunately, I've been right on a lot of things lately. Because everything I've been right on has been a catastrophe, like for everyone. Did we not go through, did we not, we'll get to the Durham indictment in a second here. Did we not talk about this? Did we not? Here. Did we not talk about this? Did we not say that the morally superior liberal Democrats would rather have this than Trump tweeting? I told you, I said, if they had a choice, they would much rather have this. Much rather. I told you this. You have to understand the mindset. I said this. Okay? Didn't I say this? I said if they had a choice. Here's the here's the this is a happy day compared to if Trump, let's put it this way. If the morally superior Democrats, who are wonderful, beautiful people, had two choices, one being Trump in his second term on back on Twitter, or this right here, this. Okay, you tell me in the chat. You tell me right now in the chat. What do you think they'd pick? This or Trump in the White House again? You tell me. I want to know in the chat. Come on now. Let's go. Is this mic on? Is this microphone working? You tell me. What do you think they'd rather pick? If they had a choice, what would they choose? A Trump White House or this? Is this microphone on? Exactly, Cornelius. Exactly. They would much rather have this. They would pick nuclear. So that's my point. Look, you have to understand. Yesterday, I was not joking around. I told you. I said, or the other day, I've been talking about this for a while. I said, look, he's probably going to get us into a nuclear confrontation because mashed potato brains never had any successful foreign policy achievement. Nothing. Nothing. Okay. And he's surrounded by complete imbeciles. They already botched the Doha Agreement, which was, terrible. U.S. believes Russia plans nuclear exercise to warn West over Ukraine. Why are we sending Americans, thousands of Americans? For what purpose? We know they have nukes. See, this is why. Exactly. Ebenezer Adams. Democrats believe in only rain or ruin. Exactly. That's true. We saw that with Trump Russia. They had no Ebenezer Adams. Very well said. Thank you, as always, Ebenezer Adams. They had no problem plunging the country into a new Red Scare. They had no problem at all plunging the country into a new Red Scare. They had no problem at all. And I mean, they did that. They had no problem at all. And I mean, that's the thing. I mean, this is only going to get worse. Now imagine, God forbid, there's a Cuban Missile Crisis. There's a nuclear standoff. Imagine, God forbid. Imagine there's a nuclear crisis and mashed potato brains instead of JFK is at the helm. And JFK was very smart. He didn't listen to his advisors. All Biden does is listen to his. He probably doesn't tell anybody anything. He doesn't have any vision. He doesn't have any, roadmap or strategy, or he has no vision. So, I mean, this is not the only article, by the way. I'm telling you, it's going to get worse. Ukraine crisis could lead to nuclear confrontation under new strategy. I mean, it's right here. This is something that nobody's talking about, but I've been telling you this. I've been telling you this for months now. I said it's probably going to get worse. What do you think's going to happen when you blamed Russia for 5-6 years because Democrats lost and Ebenezer Adams is 100% right. They would rather it's always a toss up between reign and ruin. So of course it could lead to nuclear annihilation. I mean, you have created a new Cold War and a new Red Scare simply because Clinton lost, and you blamed Russia for installing Trump. Then you say Trump is a demagogue when at the same time you're blaming another country for your losses. And you create this tension. Everything's about Putin. Everything's about Russia. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. And anything that like is viewed as harming their political chances is a problem to democracy. And you have the most incompetent. You have the most incompetent people in government now. They have no nuclear capable Russian bomber flies over Belarus. So there you go. Times of Israel here. They're sending they're sending aircraft that can drop nukes. They're sending aircraft. They're not messing around, okay? They're not going to mess around. It's probably going to come to like some kind of confrontation depending on what happens, you know. It's not going to be good. And I mean the market's going to I mean could you imagine could you imagine the market? The stock market would seem so insignificant. Insignificant. Okay. Could you imagine the stock market? Could you imagine the stock market? He's not messing around. Okay? He's not messing around. He's not playing. And he's not backing down because you've kind of you've cornered them. You've cornered him. In like we in a way caused this. We had no intention of allowing Ukraine into NATO. We should have been honest with Ukraine. The US and NATO were not honest. So they lured that country into this horrible situation. JEG exactly. It's only going to get worse. It's not going to get better. It's going to get worse. Because you have I mean, what's the point of sending Americans public relations? You're sending Americans, you already have NATO bases there. Why would he do this? What's the point of Biden sending Americans to Europe? This is why morally you should have voted Trump because none of this would have happened with Trump. None of this. His whole thing, he probably would have tried to find an economic solution. And you better believe he would have opened up as much as he could the economy immediately. Immediately. Without doing things that we can't talk about. We can't talk about things, and so I won't talk about things. You better believe. I mean, this is not. I mean, it's like all over. I was gonna do a segment on this also, but it's like nobody really cares about it. So here, reshape European nuclear order. I mean, there's a lot of discussion. Lot of discussion. We knew this. We learned. We learned that we learned that we learned that during the Cold War there was something called mutually assured destruction. Then we have mashed potato brains. And we have mashed potato brains. Okay? Look at this. Look at this. Look at who's leading us. Look at this man. You want to compare him to Putin or Z? You want to compare him this man? He looks like a gust of wind, like a tumbleweed is like heading his direction. This is the man that's going to protect us from a nuclear annihilation, probably get us into it. Okay? This has been the worst presidency. And Democrats, morally superior liberal Democrats, would say that about Trump, but really, they didn't like his personality. We had record low unemployment. Inflation was less than 2%. Are you kidding me? We didn't have global supply chain problems. We didn't have any of this stuff. This is the man that's going to protect our country. Okay? You want to compare him, this man, to where's Putin? Hold on here. And we have all, the New York Times is just basically kind of documenting it. And they're like, oh, well. Hold on. Where was that picture of Putin? Ebenezer Adams! Have the U.S. State Department forgotten the Warsaw Pact? Apparently they have. Thank you, Ebenezer Adams. Thank you. This one's definitely a fantastic, hilarious clown. Macron. All these liberal leaders like Macron and Trudeau, they all have this phony, idealistic, like this tough, phony, idealistic facade. Looking like so idealistic. Meanwhile, the people despise them. Look at look at this. Compare this man. Compare this man. Compare this to hold on. Compare this. Oh Lord. God. Okay, what's a good picture of mashed potato brains? Here. Compare this, Lord. This. Okay? Hold on. This man. Compare this man to this man. And people say, oh, it's just a picture. It's like, no, well, it's true. It's a vapid, just sophomoric thing to do. But compare this dude to to this guy right here. Are you serious? Are you serious? One person is has maybe going in his pants, and the other one is planning 30 steps ahead. I mean, like, he's like, um, I have, Russian oil and gas to Germany, to Europe, everything taken care of. Energy needs all run through Moscow. And it's bad oatmeal. I told him not to put. Come on, man. I said, don't put the raisins. I said, strawberries, not raisins. Come on, man. Every time, in the morning, I said, come on, man. You put blueberries in the oatmeal. I said, come on, man. You put blueberries in the oatmeal. It's already. The blueberries had mold. Come on, man. I have to stand up. Give me a break, man. Come on. Come on, man. Come on, man. Look at this. And then there's President Z, the same thing. I'm okay. Okay. And then look, you have President Z right here. You can have Z and Putin. Look at this. Oh my God. Look at this. Look at these two men. Do you want to mess with either of them? Do you want to mess with either of them? Who do you think has? You think Poopy Pants has anything over these two men right here? Who would you take? Who would you take long term? If this is like chess, these two men right here or General Poopy Pants? Dear Leader Poopy. I don't think so. I don't think look at like they know exactly what they're doing. They have a vision. I'm not saying it's a good vision. I'm not saying that I agree with what they're doing. I'm just saying they have a strategy and a plan. I'm not saying I do not agree with a lot of, I oppose a lot of what they're doing. But they have a strategy, a plan, and they're not consumed with anger. Well, let's put it this way: they're not consumed with condemnation and judgment. Maybe in a certain sense, they exhibit those, but I'm talking about they're not like obsessed with climate change because they know the reality of energy prices. They have specific, limited military goals and objectives. With Z, it's Taiwan. With Russia, it's Ukraine. And they know what their competitive advantages are. Okay? In China, it's just the market that it has, the market for goods and making things. And Russia has either a monopoly or a huge advantage in oil and gas and uranium. And gee, how did that happen? And we have the extra from Weekend at Bernie's. And so we can it is what it is. This is what we're up against. Okay, so it is what it is. Trump's tweets, it's all about, oh my God, we have to blame Russia for everything because you know, Democrats lost, so it's a big problem. So let's see if the doomsday clock. Okay, so hold on. Because of course the doomsday clock is run by morally superior liberals. Of course, it went closer to midnight with Trump, even though Trump was not an interventionist. Bizarre. Hey, let's see. These are on the meeting to commit themselves. Renewed cooperation. They're not cooperating. They're not cooperating. They're not climate change. Okay, the get our newsletter on nuclear risk and climate change. Like, well, one is infinitely more important than the other. Did they move the clock? The clock moved 2.5 minutes to midnight in 2017, and then it moved forward 2 minutes. Okay, so in 2018, left unchanged 2019. This whole thing, this doomsday clock should be like at 10 seconds to midnight, not 100 seconds. Whatever. The whole thing was made because of nuclear annihilation. Like the whole thing behind the doomsday clock, it was about the potential for nuclear annihilation, not climate change. But of course, everything the morally superior liberal Democrats, wonderful people, touch turns to 200% increase in fertilizer. So anyway, U.S. isn't ready for nuclear rivalry. U.S. stress test new nuclear plan. Oh, gee. So, Ebenezer Adams, thank you to my super chat. Ebenezer, thank you so much. What about daylight saving? Buy US anything? Ebenezer, thank you. Ebenezer Adams, thank you. Thank you so much. Ebenezer Adams, thank you. Your support via super chat is greatly, greatly appreciated. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So, I mean, you got to ask yourself, this is all like, this is just getting worse. I mean, then you have this article: U.S. must prepare for war against Russia. Like, well, you want nuclear annihilation? Ebenezer Adams, thank you so very much. So, satellite images. Okay, so hold on. Uh, so this is, I mean, it's like nuclear capable aircraft. And what is the point of sending Americans if they're going to Russia two long-range nuclear-capable aircraft to patrol over western Belarus, Russia's ally and Ukraine's neighbor to the north? So what's the point of this? Like what kind of genius move is Biden, like, what's Biden doing? Because his entire administration is Jake Sullivan and bumbling Blinken. Mad Cow Mark! Thank you, Ebenezer. Ebenezer Adams, thank you. Mad Cow Mark, thank you. Mad Cow Mark, I hope all is well. Or we might be heading towards oblivion. Mad Cow Mark, thank you. Mad Cow Mark, thank you so much. To my super chat, thank you so much. So, I mean, it's here. Nuclear capable aircraft over Belarus. Today's the 6th. That was what, yesterday? I mean, and it's only going to get worse because whereas Mad Cow Mark, thank you so much. And Ebenezer Adams, thank you so much. And to my super chat, thank you. Whereas Z and Putin have a strategy, okay, they have a specific military objective and they have a specific economic objective. And they have very well defined political goals and objectives and strategies. We do not. The only strategy, the only objective Biden has is not Trump. Don't be Trump. That's it. That's the only strategy that Democrats have. Don't be Trump. Oppose Trump. That's their strategy. Oppose Trump. That's it. That's it. And it's like Jimmy Carter 2.0, hello. They don't have an actual strategy. They don't have like Nina, thank you. They don't have an actual roadmap. I mean, what is it that mashed potato brains and Democrats want? What is it that they want? They don't have, I mean, economically, we're heading towards a recession. Elon Musk predicted that, and others have, and I've talked about that. I wrote about that in the Federalist article. We have, the stock market is about to implode. It is about to implode, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? Robbie, hello. It is about to implode. And it's like, so this is amazing. So this is a Kristen, you're right. My God. My God. So check this out. This is unbelievable. This is exactly what you would get. This is exactly why people like Trudeau and Biden and Macron. So this is the Daily Mail. Justin Trudeau invited the PLA to train troops in Canada, according to Top. What? Why? What? And it's like, this is a while back, but my God. What? Revealed the Canadian Prime Minister invited to send his troops to Ontario for cold weather training. What? It makes no sense at all. It makes no sense at all. It makes absolutely no sense at all. Thank you, Kristen, for that. Wow. Oh my God. Oh my God. It's only going to get worse. It's only going to get worse. So, I mean, you have nuclear capable aircraft. They're amassing nuclear capable missiles. And this is all happening, by the way, without Trump on the world stage. This is all happening, by the way, without Trump on the world stage. So, I mean, you can't make this up. You can't make this up. So, I mean, you have all of these issues in addition to lithium, cobalt, um, and nickel, all-time highs, food prices, all-time highs, oil prices approaching all-time highs, fertilizer, all-time highs, all commodities, super cycle, inflation, rampant, runaway, labor shortages in key industries, global supply chain problems, the supply chain backlog, real estate bubble in China, stock market bubble here, potential real estate bubble, bond market set to tank because of interest rates going up. No plan aside from pontificating and condemning and judging all the time, 24/7. That's all they do. That's all they care about. Can you believe this and that and this and that and this and that? Poverty rate will go up. Mortgage rates exactly are going to go up. Everything's going to go up. And we're not even talking about hedge funds. And we're not even talking about hedge funds. And we're not even talking about a too big to fail crisis. Hofcast, thank you. And we're not even talking about hedge funds and a too big to fail crisis. So here, this. Okay, so hedge funds. And we're not even talking about hedge funds. $20 billion margin call. So this is the Archegos. Of course, Bloomberg will do this. $30 billion margin call. Okay? That was last year. That was last year. There are going to be margin calls of billions of dollars or hundreds of billions of dollars when the market goes tanks. If the market goes down too quickly now, because we have 200 to $300 billion more in margin. If the market goes down too quickly, you're going to get margin calls, and the thing's going to just keep spiraling downwards. You have margin, you have derivatives contracts on margin, stocks on margin, and you had a $30 billion margin call for a hedge fund. $30 billion. Okay? Now, that's in addition to everything we talked about, from food prices to oil to fertilizer to lithium to supply chain issues to inflation to everything. That's in addition to everything we talked about. Now we have hedge funds and risky trades. I mean, the level of risk is at an all-time high. And it is the direct correlation. It is directly the fault of Democrats and media and never Trump Republicans, the establishment, but mainly Democrats and media, that pushed to end economic activity. They reacted in the most apoplectic manner. Look, we are focused in our society on a certain type of disingenuous, form of, I don't want to call it morality, but like we're focused on outrage. Putin and Z are not. They're focused on specific goals. And then when the poverty rate goes up because the economy tanked, because we couldn't discuss. See, Democrats, media, they don't really care about what people do here and there because there are others that do worse or do the same thing. I'm not going to get into it. This is a different topic. They care about if a person actually has a discussion, dialogue, debate, discourse. You can go and you can watch old like Johnny Carson or Dick Cavett or Arsenio Hall or the Mike Douglas show or Steve Allen or what. I mean, you can look, and there were people. There's a what's his name? There used to be shows, Larry King, but also there used to be shows like Tom Snyder. There used to be shows in our country where all people would do was just talk. That's all they would do is just talk. They would talk about their life. They would talk about, what they learned, society, their careers, what they went through, what they learned about life, and or they would get into philosophical discussions, debate policies, or whatever. Okay? Charlie Rose. Now, there is none of that. Aside from a couple of people, one in particular being the largest in the world, but we won't get into that discussion because Hunter Biden also numerous times, but nobody brings up Hunter Biden. We'll just leave that discussion alone. Of course it's horrendous and wrong. Of course. But if you don't get upset with Hunter Biden, well, okay, that's another story. Go check his emails to his attorney. More than just that horrible, horrible, horrible word. A lot of other things too. But anyway, Democrats and the morally superior among us cannot have a discussion. Their ideas don't resonate. Their ideas, their policies, how they view the world is easily refuted by a tiny bit of research. And you can look. They obsess over climate change. There's an all-time high now in exactly, JG. They obsess over climate change. There's an all-time high now in fossil fuels. They claim to care about wealth inequality. Wealth inequality is going to get much worse. Much worse. And it's the worst in Democratic-run cities. Okay? They thought that Trump was going to destabilize the planet. Now you're seeing the planet unravel. You're seeing geopolitical nightmares take place because Biden's foreign policy, he never had a foreign policy success. They said, well, the stock market's not the best indicator of wealth. Well, the market's going to tank. And the market is absolutely going to tank. And you're going to see the market's going to tank. You're going to see a recession, and we're going to have another recession. We're going to have another recession. So, I mean, all of these things are taking place, ladies and gentlemen. All of these things are taking place under Biden's watch. They're all taking place under Biden's watch. So, and when you look at the House and the Senate in 2022, it's not just, thank you, Hofcast, thank you. Thank you so much. You look at the House and the Senate in 2022, it's not just about the Durham Probe special counsel, which it will be, like, that will be an important, the Durham Probe special counsel will be one of, well, the most important investigation initially. The Durham Probe special counsel will be a beneficiary, will benefit from the House and Senate going Republican, but the country will also hopefully they'll focus on economic growth. And if that means cutting taxes, good. Anything that grows the economy and helps the economy get out of a recession. Everything Biden has done is like literally to cause a recession. I can't really it's forbidden to even talk about it, but so I won't. Everything he's done is to stifle economic activity. Literally to stifle. Fender 6 strings, thank you. Thank you, Fender. Thank you so much. Greatly appreciated. Thank you. To my super chat, thank you so much. JG, I would love that. Fender 6 strings, thank you. Thank you. It's really unbelievable. Fender 6 strings, thank you so much. To my super chat, thank you so very much. Your support is greatly, greatly, greatly appreciated. It's going to be interesting. The next look, March, is when they're going to raise interest rates. Now, you have March, they're going to raise interest rates, but you don't know what's going to happen in terms of geopolitics. You don't know what's going to happen with Ukraine and Russia. If they raise interest rates and oil goes well above $100 per barrel, well, think about it this way. If they raise interest rates, which Jerome Powell will do, in March, and either before or after he raises interest rates, Russia invades, God forbid, Ukraine, which would be horrible, but unfortunately, the US and NATO put Ukraine in that position. They really did. Okay? The good side, there is no good side here. The only people, like, Ukraine was put in a horrible, horrible position. We tried to pretend to the world that, oh, well, you know what, if they wanted to join, we'll help them join. And they said, and then at the same time they said, oh gosh, you can't join NATO. All the while knowing that it would provoke Russia, because they view that to be an existential problem. Like that's like the top national security concern. And then with China and Taiwan, that's their top national security concern. Thank you, Senior Tulupin. Thank you. So, I mean, you just think of those two things. Like, if oil goes above 100%, if oil goes up above, if oil goes up above $100 after they raise interest rates, that's a huge problem. That's a huge problem. And then, I mean, then you have all of these other issues too. What if inflation does not come down or does not slow down in the way they think? Which it won't slow down in the manner that they believe it will. It won't slow down in the manner that um, it will not slow down. So I mean, it's like, and there's a situation where you have a very, very interesting scenario where you could have an inverted bond yield curves where short-term interest rates, the short-term treasury could have a higher yield than long-term, which would mean that people do not want to take any risk, and they're uncertain, I should say. That investors would be uncertain, so the appetite for for any risk at all would be non-existent. So what is an inverted yield curve? An inverted yield curve represents a situation where long-term debt instruments have lower yields than short-term debt instruments. Usually it's the other way around. The 10-year has a higher yield always than the short-term treasury bills or the short-term debt. So, key takeaways. This would be a precursor to a recession or to an economic downturn or possibly, heaven forbid, a depression. An inverted yield curve reflects a scenario in which short-term debt instruments have higher yields than long-term instruments of the same credit risk profile. Investor preferences of liquidity and expectations of future interest rates shape the yield curve. Typically, long-term bonds have higher yields than short-term bonds. And the yield curve slopes upward to the right. An inverted yield curve is a strong indicator of a potential recession. What am I doing here? Because of the reliability of yield curve inversion as a leading indicator, they tend to receive significant attention in the financial press. Okay? So Important. An inverted treasury yield curve. An inverted treasury yield curve is one of the most reliable leading indicators of an impending recession. And it's slowly trending towards that. The short-term yield is slowly approaching the long-term yield for treasuries. Yield curves can be now here. Let's just see here. So why is the 2-year, when the 2-year has, hold on. So let's see here. Why is the 2-year, 10-year and 2-year spread important? So when the 2-year treasury has a higher yield than the 10-year, that's a big problem. Huge problem. That's an impending recession. One of the most popular methods of measuring the yield curve is to use the spread between the yields of the 10-year treasuries and the 2-year treasuries to determine if the yield curve is inverted. The spread is one of the most reliable leading indicators of recession within the following year. For as long as the Fed has published data since 1976, it has accurately predicted every declared recession in the United States. So that, in addition to everything else, is a big problem. And then, of course, you get, well, you know what? It's actually a false positive. It's like, yield curve inversion maybe, it's not going to happen. So, so let's see. Financial Times. Come on. Come on. Of course. Um, let's see. So the 20-year top the 30-year. That's not good. Anyway, we have all of these. We have all of these problems, ladies and gentlemen, and it's only going to get worse, unfortunately. So I suggest what I would tell everyone is just save as much money as possible. As much money as possible. Save as much money as possible. And as I, ask for super chat every month from here on out, because we have no clue. I have no clue when the 2 to 3,000 point drops will take place. But you'll get 1,000 point drops, and then that could lead to 2,000 point drops, and that could lead to 2 to 3,000 point drops in the stock market. Bitcoin will tank to 10,000. The Dow will tank to around 20,000. And you're going to have potentially geopolitical crisis after geopolitical crisis. Mashed potato brains is not going to know what to do. He's never known what to do. Okay, he's never known what to do. Every single month, Eliza, thank you. Every single month, make sure you have, if you have stocks, for example, or if you've made money in the stock market, um, if you have stocks and you've made money, take some profits off. Make sure you have enough um make sure you have enough money to survive a rainy day, or so that you can, you have enough for 2, 3, 4, 5 months, 6 months of expenses if you can. I know it's very difficult, very, very, very difficult to do. I understand that. But right now we are at the edge of a cliff. We're basically right before hitting the iceberg. We have enough time on our hands, ladies and gentlemen, as a society to focus on this individual and that individual and what they said, and oh my God. And the poverty rate is going to increase for everybody. Inflation is going to increase. We're heading into a recession. The stock market is going to crash and tank. There's going to be very likely a bit too big to fail moment. And it's very important that you prepare economically, but also psychologically. Like, when things get worse, just be prepared. Understand that, I mean, we'll eventually rebound. It's going to take Republicans in the House for us to rebound, and the Senate. We'll eventually rebound. We will eventually rebound. That is certain. We will eventually rebound. Okay. Bitcoin rebounded, yes. I do believe Bitcoin will get down to 10,000. JG, 20,000 optimist. I agree with you. I agree with you, JG. Make sure that from here on out, every single day, you understand that as long as you're prepared, like, focus on your health, your family, your life, the people who care about you, you know, a hobby, something that, that brings you joy and laughter and happiness, and tune out all the outrage and angst and frustration, because that's all media does. See, when I'm talking about, Russia with flying nuclear capable aircraft, I'm actually not only reporting, but also kind of giving everyone a heads up so that they can prepare mentally, psychologically, emotionally. It's going to get a lot worse. But if you know it's going to get a lot worse, then suddenly, it's not going to, it won't affect you in the way it'll affect most people. You can actually focus on success, love, life, happiness, all of those things. If you focus on success, happiness, love, health, laughter, it doesn't matter what mashed potato brains does to the country because it's only going to get worse. you know? Midnight Squirrel, thank you. Eliza, thank you. Like, it's only going to get worse. And the worse it gets, there will be a tipping point. There will be a point where AOC and Biden and the morally superior liberal pundits and media, there will be a point where they realize that the fertilizer has hit the fan, and it's actually 200% more expensive. Well, and then, like, the fertilizer is going to hit the fan, and they're going to, like try to scrape up as much fertilizer because um, it's 200% more expensive, and there's a shortage. But, like, save money. If you are about to retire, you have no business in the market. I've said this for about 5 months now. If you're about to retire, you have no business in the market. You know. And like Ben asked, Ben D, if I'm in my early 40s, which I'm not that far away from, but if I'm like, if I'm even like in my 20s or 30s, although obviously people want to take a lot more risk in their 20s, my mindset was very different pertaining to investing, or like very different in my 20s, very different than it is now. But there's going to be a lot of people in their 20s and 30s. Like, I remember being young and remembering the 87 crash, even though like I wasn't into it, but I did understand what was going on. In 2000, I was, you know, like I was there, I understood. But there are going to be people who it's going to be an interesting thing, because there are people who will be in their 30s who will have remembered not only '08. Thank you, Caroline. Thank you. Not only '08, but then they'll go through this also, and they'll keep asking why. And the reason is because you vote Democrat. That's why. That's why. Or you vote establishment. So there was a Bush administration, and then now you have Biden. It's the same coin. It's two sides of the same coin. They don't get it. They don't get it. And you had Trump with his, they didn't like his personality, so they'd rather have this. They'd rather have an economic collapse with ICBMs flying above. But they would rather have that. They would rather have that than um they would rather have that than Trump tweeting. They would rather have that. They would rather have that than Trump tweeting. Because like this right now, Russia has not invaded Ukraine officially, although they're like it's almost certainly imminent. And that's terrible. And I think you could blame NATO for that, and the U.S. Unfortunately, I don't want to. It's tough to say, but it's the truth. We put Ukraine in a terrible situation, pretending that we're going to let them in NATO, knowing very well that we're not going to let them in NATO, but provoking Russia in doing so. So that's yet to fully take place. Who knows? Like China and Taiwan, I think that's very almost certainly going to happen. I'm predicting that. Unfortunately, I don't want any of these things to take place. Stock market crash. We're right before a complete meltdown. So geopolitical crisis, like left and right. Stock market crash, economic recession, and Biden's focused on climate change and decarbonizing our economy. And this is like this is all because we ended economic activity. Ty! We're all doomed. I was in Wisconsin. Hello. Hello, Ty. Hello. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ty. Thank you. Thank you, Ty. Thank you so very much. To my super chat, thank you. We'll go a little while longer, a couple minutes longer. But to my super chat, thank you so very much. Ty, thank you. I hope all is well. It'll be interesting. It'll be very interesting how they pivot. How will Democrats and media pivot? Because media and Democrats, it's like synonymous. They're the same thing. Ty, hello. Thank you so much. It'll be interesting how they pivot. It'll be very, very, very interesting. And they'll probably like, I don't know what they're gonna say. Oh, it's because they didn't. It's because Manchin. They're obsessed with Manchin. They're obsessed with Manchin. Here's the Cook political report. But it'll be interesting, like what they. It'll be interesting how they try to pivot from them pushing to end economic activity, gleefully, by the way, gleefully, to um oh yeah, it wasn't our fault. It wasn't our fault. It was just, something that had to happen. Ha ha ha, JG. I'd love to be there. It'll be interesting how, like, Keith, hello. It'll be interesting how they say, "Oh, well, it's too bad that the you know what had to make us do all of these things." Like, no, the you know what didn't. Sorry, the you know what didn't. The you know what didn't make anyone do anything. The you know what didn't make anyone do anything. It was our reaction, or it was the reaction of people who basically run the show. You have unelected bureaucrats, unelected officials, revered by media and Democrats. Any dissent is opposed. They make absurd leaps of logic that could actually be applied easily to them, actually in a more logical manner can be leveled at them. And it's like um it's like they don't want to accept responsibility, can't accept responsibility. They just turn the page, always turn the page. They're still focused on Trump. They're still obsessed with Trump. It's unbelievable. And they're like, "Oh yeah, Jim Jordan and Trump spoke. Jim Jordan and Trump spoke. So what? Who cares? Who cares if Jim Jordan and Trump spoke? How does that when the recession hits, who cares about that? Who would care about whether Jim Jordan and Donald Trump spoke? And that's like the only thing, like they're really into it. They're really into it. And like I said, no matter how bad things get, it will never ever be. They will never. They will never. There will never be an I told you so moment. There will never be an I told you so moment ever. Ladies and gentlemen, it's 2 hours and I want to thank you all. To my super chat, thank you. Tell your friends about this channel, ladies and gentlemen. We're actually moving upwards. We're almost at 192,000 subs, people. We're almost at 192,000 subs. So hit subscribe. Tell your friends about this channel. Subscribe to the Stock Market Crash channel. I'll have a whole bunch of segments this week on there. And I will have a live stream tomorrow evening at around the same time, about like 8 p.m. or so. And I'll try to do an earlier one as well. So be here for the earlier live stream also at probably around 4 p.m. So be here for the early live stream at around 4 p.m. and definitely the late live stream. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much. It's a 2-hour live stream, so we did talk about the Durham probe, but then we, talked about things like the economic recession that relates to the Durham probe, because it'll help Republicans completely sweep the House and Senate. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Have a great, great evening. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a great week ahead. God bless you all. And I'll tell JG, everybody here, thank you so much. To my super chat, thank you so very much. I'll see you tomorrow, everybody. Tell your